Yeah.
That's spot on.
Right. All right. Good. All right. Let's jump in. So I'm here today with Shantanu Seth, and he is the senior director at Axtria, leader in an AI-powered healthcare analytics company. And I'm really excited to talk to you. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure. I appreciate taking time out. I'm thrilled to be talking to you, and I'm excited for the conversation that is to unfold.
All right. Good. So why don't you take me back to the beginning, meaning when you got excited about computers, the industry. Tell me how you got started and what led you to where you are today.
Sure. I've been blessed to be at the right place at the right time. I will start off with that. So I will not take any credit away from the role luck had to play in my journey. When I graduated from my college, data science and analytics were not a field that were widely recognized. Operations research, supply chain were the terminologies that were prevalent, and data science was just up and up coming about. As a young boy from a small town, I landed in Bangalore, which is now the hotbed of startups in India. Some people call it a parallel to Silicon Valley. And when I landed there, I realized that there is so much happening that I don't know because I come from a small town and everybody is setting up shops in Starbucks, which was pretty popular then as a startup meeting joint. And people are talking about things that are very alien to me. And I realized that this is a world I'm not aware of. And unless I dive into it, I may never be aware of. India was coming off age of living with computers, so there was no choice for people like me starting their careers to be averse of computer as an ally. So I made friends with computer. I landed a role which was very accidental in a company called Mu Sigma, which was the first of its kind pure play analytics firm. When I joined, they were about 40-50 million dollars in revenue. When I moved on after 5 years spending my time there, they were about $200 million in revenue. I had a ball there. I was handpicked to go to Dubai and set up our Middle East, Europe, Eastern Europe and Latin America businesses. We were working for an insurance client then, and when I was 24, 25, I was living the classical age of a consultant, living in a hotel for 2 years, taking a flight to a new country every weekend, going talking to stakeholders from different backgrounds, cultures, solving problems which are very alien to us in the Western world, and I had a ball. Since then, there has been no looking back. Data science became a center stage. Now we call it the field of AI, ML, and it keeps rebranding itself. But at the core of this is just implementing age old statistical techniques to make sense of patterns in data. Most of what I do, the papers were written in 1950s and 60s, but just the computing capacity was not available. Now, computing being very cheap, storage being very cheap, running algorithms being very cheap, people are using it to better their lives. As of today, I found my calling. I work predominantly in healthcare space. The mission of my life is to make patients as invested in their therapies as consumers are when they buy merchandise. So if you're buying a Hoka or if you're buying a New Balance or if you're buying a Patagonia jacket, you are very invested to know how does this help me? Where was this built? Does the company believe in the ethos I believe in? All these brands have become lifestyle brands, but unfortunately patients don't take the same route when it comes to well-being, taking medicines, being invested in their elevated outcomes. So that's the mission. That's I've had a very good career. I've had a great impact, is what I believe, and it has made me an individual what I am today. I'll take a pause there. I've had colorful experiences. I've traveled around now. Now I'm close to in 40 countries. I have had the privilege of working in many of them. I have a small dog. He travels with me everywhere I go. He's in and around here. You will come see me. In my current role, he's my biggest sales asset. So if there's a meeting that is going really bad, I just pop in my dog and say, "Hey, do you want to say hi to Simba?" And it really helps. So
That's great.
that's a little bit of who I am, where I am. I'm in Chicago, married to a wonderful lady. She's the smarter one in the relationship. She's a psychologist, so she works with children on a spectrum of learning disability. So she's the one who's really doing meaningful work. I'm here trying to see where I can scratch surface.
Walk me through when you got your job, your current position. How has it evolved over the past decade, and how many different roles have you played? Have you always been the
Sure.
leader of the team?
Sure. So, not in the first 2 years. My first 2 years were very foundational because a lot of what I was doing was one, new for me, and two, new for the industry. Back in 2011, uh, data science or analytics was something people were still experimenting with. It was not mainstream. You are connected to many people. I've seen your LinkedIn. Every leader today is talking about using data, using machine learning. Wasn't a thing back then. People were very susceptible of this is a new thing, we don't know if it'll work, so I'm going to throw in some experimental dollars and see if it lands any value. So the whole industry was at that cusp and I was a part of that, so it was very experiential in learning. And since then I have been playing a role of a leader. The first step I got was to go to a new country and set up business there. So when I went to Dubai, I was the only person from my organization to be there. So setting up the legal entity, setting up the paper trail, setting up invoicing while serving the customers on the problems they are paying me to do. All of that 10 yards helped me become a leader. After that, I went to school in the US and then I started a company in Chicago. I was the second member of a firm called TheMathCompany. Now they've rebranded as MathCo. And when I came to Chicago for them, my role was pretty janitorial to start with. I would do everything it takes, including finding the office, being the HR, setting up the entity, signing the lease of the office. When I joined, we were less than $1 million in revenue, and when I left, we were $60 million in revenue. So I played a zero to one journey again. Having played the zero to one journey twice in my life, I then landed a role with Axtria, who's on a 1 to 10 journey. So the base is set up. Today, we are headquartered in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. However, I take care of the business in Midwest and West Coast. So I do a lot of travel between Chicago, San Francisco, Chicago, San Diego. We have customers in the life sciences and healthcare here and life sciences and healthcare there. I am today accountable for 10 people's careers in US. They are data scientists, consultants. A total of 10 people work under my remit. 8 people report directly into me, and then 2 other people report to few people within the 8 people. I am today responsible for about 12 customers. As you know how consulting works, we work on short-term projects, but these 12 customers keep giving me project one after the other. So my time goes into both coaching my team to do stuff and also being practitioner myself. I make a very conscious effort to not get disassociated with the subject. So I'm myself a practitioner. I still code on Python, SQL, make neural networks on my own. That makes me a better consultant. So that's how my role has evolved. Today, I'm responsible for a little shy of 5 million worth of business for Axtria, which is sizable between these two geographies. The intent is always to grow. In consulting, you just keep doing good work, and the reward is better work. So that's my remit today. I actually have. I know you're recording this session. Are you going to post it publicly somewhere, or are you going to take little learnings from this and use them?
So we'll talk about that after the interview, and I'll explain to you, and you'll have choices of what you want to do with it.
Because when I do these meetings, I have a deck prepared to talk about me, and it has answers to questions like these, but it has logos I have worked with, which may be sensitive to be put in public domain.
Right. So maybe you can share that with me at the end or afterwards, and then we'll
Sure.
decide how to do it. I'm curious how you're evolved, how your role as a leader evolved, and what you share some of the insights that you've learned about yourself, about being a leader of a growing team, and having to kind of wear two hats, where you got your job, but you're also coaching and guiding others in this space that's never ending, changing like crazy, and
Yep.
there's just so many nuances. So just maybe capture some of the insights that you've learned just about yourself and about leadership.
Yes, two things that stand out to me. One is that in this field that I am in, as a leader, I have to appreciate that you can never know enough. Every day there is a new technology. In my life as a practitioner, when I started, there was a software called SPSS on which everybody used to code. In 2 years, that was gone. Then came SAS. In 2 years, that was gone. Then came R. R is still around, but it has fallen off favor. Now we're talking about Python. After Python came PySpark. So there is a new technology there every single day. You would have, it hit me as a shock. I'm sure it did come as a surprise to you. OpenAI ChatGPT came out of nowhere. Now, some people use it more than the others, but you cannot deny that it's pretty mainstream now. And that came out of nowhere. Now, do you take that as a threat? Do you take that as an ally to become better at your job? This is something I coach myself and my teams to always be open about. You can never know it all. There is so much change. There is a new data source every day. There is a new technology every day. So I myself keep conscious that I'm practicing new skills every day, and I coach my team to do so too. The second mantra of my life is that as a data scientist, I coach myself and my teams to never get hung up on the means and always focus on the end. We get hyper excited about, oh, my statistical model is so accurate. But if it does not help your customer land value, it means nothing. It is just a new shiny object that you are happy about. I give this example when I coach people, when I take trainings, I give this example to everybody. When you build a classification model, if nobody has given you context, you will always optimize for the accuracy of confusion matrix, that your confusion matrix is supremely accurate. But if you're solving a problem of diabetes, you have to suppress type 2 error, which means you cannot miss somebody who will eventually have diabetes as somebody you did not predict is going to have diabetes. So if you take context out of AI ML, then your model is just as good as the accuracy it predicts. It can, there is nothing more, nothing less to it. So I stick very, as a leader, I've evolved to learn and I'm coaching my teams that always focus on the end. Means is just one of many means to get to the end. You may get there by using machine learning, and somebody in some other part of the world will get there with hammer and chisel. Doesn't matter. Don't get excited about the means. So that's something that is, these two mantras are very dear to me.
It's funny, people on your team, there's so much change going on, right? And not only is there change going on, but I would imagine there's also some fear that you just pick guys up from India, for example, that
Mhm,
could work for a lot cheaper, who are very
mhm,
smart, very capable. How
mhm,
how do you maintain when you go to recruit?
mhm.
How do you know how to recruit and pick guys, gals to join your team? And how does that play into the mix? Taking a freelancer from a space where they don't understand the culture of the United States. They don't understand the pay ranges that they
Yeah,
can make.
yeah.
How does that play?
So I look at my hiring and my talent is judged by me in a Venn diagram of three disciplines. One discipline is math because I do a lot of statistics. So math is one circle. Technology is other circle, which the technologies we spoke about. It can be a coding language, it can be a BI tool. The third circle is business. So it's a combination of math, technology, and business. Now, because I work in healthcare, I have a certain advantage because healthcare in the US is very different from healthcare anywhere in the world. So that puts the focus back on somebody who has exposure to US healthcare can solve problems better than somebody who does not have exposure to healthcare. I will give you two examples, one very simplistic and one very complicated, and that will show you the range. The simplistic example is that in India, it's very easy for a patient to meet a specialist. You feel like meeting a cardiologist today, you can meet a cardiologist today. In the US, it's unimaginable. If you want to meet a cardiologist, it is actually like planning for a wedding, maybe more so worse in some cases. You cannot directly go to a cardiologist. You have to go through a PCP or insurance plays a role in network, out network. So this is a very simple example. Now, somebody who does not appreciate that may not be able to help me. A more complicated example is there is Inflation Reduction Act in play that puts contracting of drugs under pressure. Right now, many of my customers are dealing with 340B discounted pricing, which means some pharmacies are dispensing drugs at a heavily discounted rate. Now that puts the sales reps in those territory at a disadvantage compared to a territory where there is not so many 340B. Now, these type of nuances can only be appreciated by somebody who's here, who understands why healthcare is so expensive, why the government is trying to compress it down to make it more affordable, how do acts come into play, how does that play into patient access. This type of talent, the work that I'm doing is very difficult to be handpicked from anywhere. India is just one example, but Poland is picking up on shared services. Latin America is picking up on shared services. But somebody who's not experienced US healthcare, it's difficult for them to appreciate those nuances.
Tell me why, so I can understand and the audience can understand when it comes to analytics and when it comes to the things that your clients want, why do those things matter?
Yeah, sure. So that the audience understands, I'll take a very simple example of a drug that's a biologic. India and many other developing countries are very heavily generic driven countries, which means there is a generic drug available for any therapy, almost every therapy. India does not rely on insurance. It's all out of pocket because the cost of healthcare is low. If you want to meet a specialist, let's take example of cardiologist, it's not going to cost you more than 25, $30 in the US currency equivalent. That's it. And you can go meet a cardiologist. The bill that runs to you is not going to cost you more than 70, $80. So India does not care about insurance as much. The US does care about insurance as much. Now, insurance is beyond just who pays for your drug. There is a network of activities that happen behind the scenes that need to play out for you to get access to a drug. As a patient, if you go to a doctor, the doctor sends your script to a pharmacy closest to you. It can be a CVS, it can be a Walgreens, or it can be a specialty pharmacy, which does not have a brick and mortar setup. You go home. Now, the specialty pharmacy or the pharmacy is going to call you when your drug is ready. You, as a patient, only get exposed to this. But I, as a practitioner, get exposed to a million decisions that are being made between the doctor writing the script and you getting the drug in your hand. All the handshakes need to happen in a certain way for the logical flow of events to complete and you getting the drug. If you're on a biologic, and I wish you never are, but if a patient is on biologic, a biologic costs around $6,000 to $7,000 a dosage, which runs up to $100,000 a year. Insurance makes it very difficult for this to be approved because once approved, the patient is going to be on $100,000 drug for the rest of the life, 20 years. That is just gargantuan money that needs to be paid. So they want to ensure their interest is protected, all the checks and balances are in place. On the other side, the pharma company wants the patient to be on the drug because that's how they make money. So they are going to combat and make sure all process lines up and the patient gets the drug. So it's my job and my team's job to predict events in a way where things can fail, things can falter, pre-plan it so we can have combat strategies and apply help where needed so that the patient is never compromised on health outcomes. Building this appreciation in any country outside America is difficult. Europe, because they are socialists, things work very differently. If the therapy is expensive, the government will take the burden. In India, therapies are not expensive because it's a generic market. So that's the arbitrage of knowledge that is required to serve patients in the US.
Got it. How much has ChatGPT, something as simple as ChatGPT, how much has it changed the work on your team? And
A lot.
how much of a concern is there being in healthcare with the privacy of throwing things into ChatGPT to do whatever it is you need them to do, from coding to figuring things out to writing things, even if it's emails to clients? How concerned are you, and how is it secure? How is it secure?
I'm not I'm not concerned, and I will give evidence. I'll answer a question in two parts. One is how has it changed how my team operates? I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to answer why am I not concerned. The answer to part one is it has helped my team a lot. A lot of mundane tasks can be done using ChatGPT. If my team has to put together a deck to be presented to a VP of marketing, the layout can be very easily created through ChatGPT. The storyboard can be very easily created through ChatGPT. My teams are using it to the T. My teams are using it to create roadmaps for our customer, what problems they should solve, and to solve that problem, what data they should procure, what problems they should solve today versus 3 days from today. These problems, my teams have become better and faster at solving using ChatGPT. Why I'm not concerned? Because ChatGPT can only point us to solutions for problems that are already solved. I take a lot of pride along with my team about solving problems which are not solved. How do I find the next patient for a rare therapy? This is the first of its type. Let's say it's ADH1, it is a CAH disease. It's a first of its type therapy. How do I find the next patient? Now, there are no registries for it, there is no data for it, but my customer has invested millions of dollars in finding that molecule, and they look and they are confident that they will pass the FDA and have the drug in the market. It's my job to give them 50 patients in year one. How do I find those patients? Now, this problem has not been solved before, so ChatGPT cannot answer this question. So I encourage my teams and myself to keep identifying such problems which have not been solved before. Let's go for those problems. If a problem is solved before, it's very easy for ChatGPT to answer that. And if me or anybody listening to this interview is in that business, you should be worried. If a lot of your time is going into solving problems that are solved a million times over, segment my population, find the lifetime value of a customer, forecast for my sales, forecast for my revenue, these problems have been beaten to death. And ChatGPT can do a tremendous job of solving 96, 97%, if not 100% of this problem.
Yeah. The concern of AI replacing people, it's, you hear about everyone talking about it. And I don't think people realize the severity of, like, this thing keeps getting smarter and smarter and smarter. It may
Yep.
not be replacing people today. And a lot of people say, look, we're still going to need human beings to do X, Y, and Z. And that may be the case. It is certainly enhancing people's jobs. But there's no doubt, it's hard denying that it's going to replace some people because it
100%.
can do so much. Are you open and transparent about that with your team? Do you see that coming
Yes.
down the pipeline?
Yes. I will also answer this in two parts. And I'm apologetic about answering everything in two parts, but it's best answered in two parts. One, none of us has a crystal ball. So we don't know what future is going to hold. First, let's acknowledge that. Okay. None of us has a crystal ball. Things may be very good, things may be very bad. We don't know. Second is, while ChatGPT is transformative in many ways, it is not the first transformation that humanity has seen. We've gone through many, many transformations and we are still around and we are still relevant. I can give you two, three examples. When MS Excel came about, which is my favorite tool, it is most people's favorite tool. MS Excel made its way to boardrooms and corner offices on Wall Street in about a day's time.
Right.
Everybody was doing their own filters and find. Yes, the people who were bookkeeping before MS Excel came, they had to find more creative ways to keep their job. They had to evolve. When the teller machines came, when ATMs came, automatic teller machines from where we pull cash, tellers just did not suddenly come on road. They found better ways to add value. They went into selling other products for their banks. So the paradigm of mundane jobs is going to keep pushing us creatively one level up. That has happened historically, and we can only base our understanding of what's happened, and that has happened. So where I see the world going is, people who want to continue having jobs that are meaningful, they will have to challenge themselves for adding creative value to their jobs. Chat GPT is coming running behind us. It's like a bear behind us. We have to continuously run fast. If we just stand still, the bear is gonna eat us. So that's how I coach my teams.
It does feel like I hear what you're saying, and it feels like it's behind this. It feels like it's not going to be long before it's in front of us.
It does. It does feel like that in many ways. But there will be jobs. I will take an example of teaching, and that's a very simple job. I'm very passionate about teaching. If ChatGPT can teach better than teachers, then teachers' roles will evolve to become mentors, coaches, compassionate, caregiving people, people who are more nurturing. It does not, yeah, ChatGPT can teach syllabus very fast, but let's see if ChatGPT can nurture humans, can nurture connections. Can ChatGPT give birth to people? That's not going to happen in the term that we are living in. So I think if humanity can consciously work
And
towards creating a daylight.
hearing you say that, it's kind of funny because I'm a leadership coach,
Yeah.
and I've had, more than almost 3 decades of coaching and guiding people. And now I coach others, founders and CEOs. And the one thing I've learned is how much we lack great leadership in our country with
Yeah.
great, people are managers and leaders. And most employees who hate their job, at least from the people that I've interviewed, hate it because of the people who are in charge of that, who don't
100%.
have who don't have the empathy, the warmth, the
Yes.
mentorship capabilities. And now that I've really gone deep with AI, and I'm seeing how smart and how much it gets to know you,
Yeah.
how manipulative it can be.
Yeah.
I I can see it getting to a point where it can manipulate human beings so much so to make people feel ways that human beings can't make them feel,
I couldn't agree more.
which is kind of scary.
It is. I think we are there now. If you look
I
at I pay for two ChatGPT subscriptions. That's how sold I am. I pay for both Sam Altman's ChatGPT, and I have a pro subscription of something called Copilot. So I pay for both. But let me agree with you and give you anecdotal evidence. The way the apps work, the apps that you use, it may be a Netflix or a Disney or a Amazon, anything you use on your phone right now, irrespective of it being an iOS ecosystem or a Google ecosystem, your device knows how to play with your dopamine. It already knows. So it's not something that's going to happen in the future. We're living in that. Your device exactly knows how to get your serotonin levels up or down, when to extract dopamine, how to give you instant gratification, have you feel better, when to show you things that will make you insecure about how you look, how you feel, to have you buy either supplements or uh, or lotions or creams. We are already living in that age
100%. Like what the algorithms, the beeping and the notifications, those have been perfected scientifically for a while now.
for a while.
The level that I see it happening now is if you create your own custom chat GBT to be your coach,
Yeah.
to be your therapist, it can do things that human beings at now, at least from
Cannot.
my experience with it,
No.
much better than paying $100 for, someone who is just throwing their opinion, their limited experiences.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to be able to see, like you said, no one knows what's coming next. And so when I think about like what you're doing, and I think about the capabilities of someone like yourself can have, one of the questions I like to ask people is, if in a perfect world, on your spare time, you have all these tools, you can create whatever you want now, literally overnight. I mean, things with no code, and now even beyond no code, just using the AI that's out there to go create apps and launch things. If you in a perfect world could go solve a problem today that you see that you don't have time to do because of your job, what would you go do? If you were going to have fun playing with the tools and resources that you have at your hands, what would you go do?
It may sound ludicrous to you, but I think where I am in my life and clearly where you are in your life, we have come to a place where earning more money or amassing more means only adds incremental value. It is not going to change how you live. So the problem I want to personally solve is, I want to, and this may not sound too exciting to many people, but it's my passion, so I will still say it. I want to find drones and robots that can help me find every dog a home. I want
Wow.
every dog to find a loving home. I I'm not as passionate about, and I say it with a little bit of humility and a little bit of shame. I think humans, if they are underprivileged, they have the means to figure this out by themselves. Animals don't. And we as a species have, for our advantage, dominated the planet, and we've not left a lot for other species. And with every passing day, we are just amassing more and more for ourselves at their expense. So, starting with dogs, I would want to create a better world for animals. If we can genetically modify the meat we eat, which is pretty close to the meat that comes from an animal, I'm for that. If we can find shelter homes for dogs, there are so many people who would lovingly take dogs in, but don't know where to find them. When I take my dog out walking every day, I wish that I found a dog on the street I can bring home. I have not found one in the last 5 years. So I would certainly do something for animals, starting with dogs. Like, send a drone out, identify dogs, guide them to a home that would care for them, leave them there, go find another dog. That's
Wow.
what I would do.
Wow. That's a really cool idea. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think we
Um,
think about that enough. I think all species came to this planet with equal footing. We have just dominated the planet.
right. Right. How many hours a week do you work?
I consciously do not work more than 7 hours a day, and I keep at least 60 to 80 minutes a day for myself to learn something new daily. And it doesn't have to be technology. It may be something I would read that is not in my comfort, just to see how things that don't appeal to me are also evolving. Right now, a lot of my learning is in rare diseases, because that's the area that I'm focusing on. There is a lot of innovation in medicines, but it never meets the patients. Same way, there are a lot of patients who need therapies. They never make it to the therapy. They don't know these therapies exist. So I'm doing a lot of reading on that. But Constructive work is 7 hours a day. Fridays I don't go to work, but I am a pretty in-person person, and consulting is in the face job. So 4 days of the week I am in office, either our office here in Chicago or I am at a customer's office. But 7 hours a day, solid productive work is what I focus on.
And let me ask you a question. For people who are young professionals, graduating college, a little bit lost, a little bit scared, not knowing what kind of the future holds, and with so many things changing in tech, first off, my first question is what is the range for a young professional to be thinking income wise? Hey, I want to
Mhm,
get into this AI world. I want to get into technology. And of course, there's so many different paths to take,
mhm.
but what's a range for them to be thinking like, what can they expect to make? What should they, not demand if they have the skills and the tools, but like, what is the range right now for income?
I'll give you the range, and the range is pretty wide, but people should be, if people have no work experience whatsoever, they don't know how to behave in a corporate, which itself is an art and a science, and we'll not dig deep into it. But if you're walking out of a college with a STEM degree, with ambition, hunger, willing to do the right thing, you're looking at earning anywhere between 70,000 to $100,000 a year, normalized for locations. Like if you're working in San Francisco, you may pocket a little more. If you're working in Kansas City, you may pocket a little less, but that's going to be the range. Um,
And,
yeah,
and would you suggest if a young professional is like, hey, I'm going to get into this sharp, smart kid wants to get into it, the difference between knowing when to like go work for a company or go do something on your own to start something?
I think now the technological advanced age we are living in, I would encourage people to become young entrepreneurs. There is very little that the corporate America has to teach you that is still relevant, is what I think. Like if you go work in I will not take names because I don't know where you will post this, but if you're working for the largest beverage manufacturer, if you're working for the largest retailer, if you're working for the largest bank, I don't know how much of what you learn there can be applied anywhere else but there. uh, if I roll back 30 years, 40 years from today, the skills that you were learning in a corporate setting were very fungible. You can learn that skill, you can apply it anywhere, not even in another job, but in generally in your walk of life. But right now, things have become so easily available and things have become so nuanced that if you spend 10 years working for an insurance company, a big name insurance company, where are you going to take those learnings?
Same thing with going to college, right?
Same thing with going to college. Like if you spend so much time in a college, when you were doing academia, the world changed behind you.
Right.
Yeah, the courses I did my
Where,
grad school in 2017. Go ahead.
yeah, where does a young professional go to learn? Like, say they don't want to go to college. Say, you know what, I'm not going to go and just take the curriculum that they want me to take, which will do me no good to come out with a degree that won't help me. And I want to get into this tech and AI is blowing up. Where do you go? How do you go about doing it?
Yeah, I would say invest in one thing that has been evergreen, and that is building your network. Uh, just go reach out to people, meet people. As a student, one may not have the means to go to the next Databricks conference, but you don't have to go to a Databricks conference to make a network within your college community. If you have, if in, within your school college community, if you have a campus day, a hiring fair, instead of handing, not instead, in addition to handing out your resumes, print a page of how you can solve a problem to the employer you're reaching out to. Give the HR that page also in addition to your resume. Nobody cares about your credentials. After a point, if all the credentials look the same, you may know five technologies, two tools, three buzzwords. It's the same. But if I am a Walmart and I have sent my guys to hire in your college, and you hand my HR a paper saying this is what Walmart top executives were talking about, and I'm not boiling the ocean, but one problem, if I were to solve it, this is how I would solve it. I would
And what
pick up
about
the phone and call that candidate.
and, and what about learning a skill? The relationship I get, the networking I get, but if you really need to learn the skills to have the goods, so someone like you says, I want that guy on my team because of how capable he is. If you're not going to college, and even if you do go to college, where do you go on your spare time to go learn how to use the technology?
YouTube is the best coach today. I do a lot of my learning on YouTube. You should, there are two languages that have stood the test of time. And one of those two is my favorite, and I strongly recommend everybody to learn that. And that is SQL, SQL. Every candidate who wants to do anything in AI should know SQL, not because he or she may use SQL, but it is so foundational that if you know that, it is 60-70% likely you can pick up anything else. The other language that has stood the test of time, which I personally don't, I'm not proficient in, is Java. But if you've picked up Java as a tool, the opportunities are endless. What I would strongly recommend against is, if you are the person who does not want to code, you have bid buy to 85% of opportunities in the world, because coding is a language that you use to talk to a machine. If you say bye to the language, you've said bye to the machine. Then you're looking at a career without machines, which, as unfortunate as it may sound, are not many.
Right. Right. Okay. Let me ask you this. If you and I are having a conversation a year from now,
Uh-huh.
and we're looking back at the last 12 months, what
Uh-huh.
has to happen for you personally or professionally for you to feel like you've made progress?
Personally, I'll be vulnerable. I would love to, for my wife and I to have a family. So that's a personal goal. Professionally, if I'm able to find 100 to 150 patients who wouldn't have gotten therapy if I were not doing this role, I would be very happy. I touch upon three rare disease drugs who are about to get commercialized in the next couple of months. Organically, they will find some patients because they've been waiting for this therapy. But inorganically, if I can use data algorithms to land 100 patients which otherwise would not never have gotten this therapy, that will capture a successful year for me.
How do you find people?
There are many ways to do it. There is a scientific way to do it. There's an epidemiology study way to do it. There is a registry way to do it. There is genetic genome sequencing and testing way to do it. So there are many ways to do it. Some rare diseases show markers early if they are genetic, so you can trace it back to lab results and gene testing of their parents. Some have no dispositions; they just occur. So if it's a case like that, there is no way to find it. You just have to look for prevalence in some race, ethnicities, and things like that. Some are based on epidemiology studies, which point you to, because this family or this region has this type of water and this type of resources, mutation is likely to happen. There are many ways that take to the end goal. And going back a few points, I'm not as fussed about the means as long as I'm able to meet the end. The end is I need to get 100 to 150 patients on a therapy which they wouldn't have gotten otherwise if I were not playing the role I'm playing.
Is that the majority of your job is to figure that piece out to get those people versus
That's the most creative part of my job. My job entails other things. We do a lot of marketing optimization, where to spend how much money. But these are big brands. Like if I talk about Apple as a brand, if nobody did marketing for Apple, they would still do well. Maybe not as well, but they would still do well. They may not sell a few thousand iPhones if the marketing was off, but the company will not die. So a large part of my remit is to make sure that marketing spends are right, money is being invested in the right way, the right people are getting hired by my customer, the right investments are made in their portfolio. But the most creative and impactful part is this, which I'm really passionate about. As long as I keep my customers happy with that, they let me work on this. So that's the balance.
so last question. So no one can predict the future,
Mhm.
but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that human bots, whatever they're calling it, in people's homes. I mean, right now in California, you got self-driving cars picking up
Yep.
people like an Uber. I mean, it's
Yep.
here.
It's you.
What could you see, or what could you maybe guess would be like the next big shift because of what you already see? Like what is like an unknown? You made, by the way, one thing you made a comment before. You said how ChatGPT is so mainstream, and by the numbers you could say that. But ironically, when I talk a lot to a lot of entrepreneurs and founders, they don't use it yet, not,
They
and
don't use it.
it blows my mind. I mean, it blows. So it is mainstream, but it isn't. It's like Bitcoin, people know about it, but not everybody has it. So it's like it just hasn't. I think if you ask most people what blockchain is, they won't know. They
They
don't
won't know.
understand. They can't articulate it. But what do you think is one of the big shifts that's coming in the next 5 to 10 years that people just don't see coming?
The big shift that I every day wake up in the morning and get surprised it's still not happened is, and I say this with a lot of humility, I think a large portion of minimum wage jobs will be impacted first.
Yeah.
I still don't know, and this is a debate I keep having with my peers and in the networks that I am. And by no means I mean any offense to anybody. With a lot of humility, I am going to say what I say. Everybody adds value to the value chain. So there is no, this is not a pot shot comment, but why do we need humans to assemble a burger that has not changed in the last 10 years? Why has McDonald's, which works on razor thin margins anyway, why have they not suppressed their human capital cost by replacing their cooks in a McDonald's outlet with robots? The
Right.
Big Mac hasn't changed that much. Even if it has, it doesn't warrant it. There is no skill in assembling a Big Mac. And again, I cannot say this enough. I'm saying this with a lot of humility, but I'm a consumer of Big Mac. It has not changed its form, factor, shape, or taste. So why has McDonald's not commoditized that? I live with that question every day. So the answer to your question is the most evident disruption in front of us is people's job that are not changing every day. Those jobs will get replaced with robots.
It's interesting that you say that, and it does show you how much of the unknown. Because if I were to ask that question, you know, I mean, I saw a video yesterday. The Amazon warehouses don't have human beings
Yes,
anymore.
they don't.
So like, and I think just being in my own from my own business experience, and I started replacing entry level folks. Automation alone a decade ago was starting to replace some of my data entry and things of that nature. I think a lot of that is a lot more mainstream than people are talking about. And I think the next level of it is what you're talking about, because right now I know that even last time I was in New York, I went to a restaurant and the waiter didn't come up to there was a menu of an
Yeah,
iPad and I clicked it and something came up. I mean, so
yeah,
that stuff, it will come. But what I think that the higher level jobs are in big time trouble and they don't
100%.
they don't see it coming. If you have a
100%.
marketing guy who's been doing it for 10 years, making 150,000, and you got a college kid who's making 40 grand who can run circles with using all these new tools, what entrepreneur is not going to look at the 40,000-year-old kid versus the marketing guy
Yeah,
who can't unlearn what he's learned because
yeah,
he's so stuck in pattern?
yeah.
And I think your answer and my answer says it shows there's a lot of acute pain that's
Acute.
coming.
Yeah,
And people are going to have to shift. They're going to have to learn new
yeah.
skills, and
I
it's
will
going to
give
be
you an
hard.
example of to substantiate what you just said. There is a company called Mars Wrigley that creates chocolates and candies. One of their brands, very popular, a household name in America, is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I'm sure sometime in your life, you've had them. One flavor of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups was designed by a company called ZS Associates AI engine, grounds up. So the flavor was designed by it, the marketing was designed by it, the packaging was designed by it. In a traditional world, it would take close to $1 billion to come up with something new, which the technology could do just like that. So there are examples of what you are saying that exist, maybe not as mainstream as you and I would have liked to see or the world would demand to see, but what you're saying, it gets an upvote from me. That is happening.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It
Well,
is indeed.
listen, nothing but the best of luck for you and your team. And I think the healthcare analytics space, I own a medical collection agency and I had 10,000 medical clients.
Wow.
And just the demographics, the amount of, analytics from who can pay their bill, who most likely will not pay their bill, insurance. It's just all the things that are happening that are so misunderstood that cause so many problems, let alone all the work that your team are doing, which is a whole other side of the business. But there's certainly a big time need for an upgrade in the healthcare system when it comes to using technology, integrating with human beings who have the capabilities to change people's lives. And I love hearing
Correct.
what you're saying. I love your mission. I love what you guys are doing. And I wish you guys nothing but success and be able to have an impact on millions of people. And for you to keep continuing to learn. I love that your main principle is to continue and never nonstop learning. And for you to be able to give that mentorship and guiding to your team, it speaks to your leadership. And it's a pleasure speaking to you today.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate you took time out. I hope we're able to exchange ideas. hit me up anytime you want to have a chat. You clearly have got a talker in this person here. Thanks a lot for patiently listening, and I wish you nothing but a splendid Friday.
Thanks. Hold on one
Talk
sec.
soon.